Dick Williams, good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Very good.
Sorry about that.
Good to be here.
Listen, it's been I think I've run with the question about the Erie Canal, which really began right here in Rome.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And now we're looking at Bicentennial, 200 years.
Can't believe it's been 200 years.
Yes, feels like it was just yesterday, doesn't it?
Time really flies.
It does. All right, so this is going to be coming up in May, and it's a 3-day celebration?
Yes, we're having a 3-day Erie Canal Bicentennial Conference, and it's going to be May 19th, 20th, and 21st. And on the 19th, it'll be at the Oneida County History Center at 1608 Genesee Street in Utica, where we have speakers talking during the day about various aspects of the canal. We have Dr. Andrew Wolf, who's at SUNY Poly, talking about the engineering of the canal. Craig Williams of the Canal Society of New York is going to talk about the early years of the canal. And other people through the day, we're having the state historian Devin Lander coming in the afternoon. So we have speakers all day, and then a dinner that evening at the Aquavino on the canal in North Utica.
Nice.
And Cincinnati Creek, the band's going to play during that situation. Then on Saturday, we have a bus tour, which will be all the historically significant sites in Rome and Utica that were important back at the canal. And, of course, the canal ran right down through Briskany Boulevard in Utica and through Rome and so forth. So there'll be several places they're going to stop on a full-day bus trip. And then Sunday, there'll be a 2-hour boat trip on the canal, which we thought would be appropriate to have a trip on the canal on Sunday at 10 o'clock from the Herkimer restaurant there where the boat goes out.
Waterfront Grill.
Yeah, so we got 3 days of activities. People can come to just one day, all 2 days, or all 3 days. There's a registration fee and so forth. And we have a website that you should go to, www.eriecanal200.com.
Okay, eriecanal200.com.
Or call the Oneida County History Center at 735-3642 in Utica. And you can register on the website if you wish, or call them and register there.
All right.
So we really are trying to celebrate the 200 years of a great engineering achievement, which went from Waterford to Tonawanda in Buffalo area, and opened up this whole area for the settlement and development of central New York and western New York.
It was quite an achievement. I mean, it's something that had never really...
it was an engineering marvel, really. Some people call it the eighth wonder of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, engineering was not that sophisticated as it is today back at that time. I think RPI had just started about that time. And the early people who did this were really surveyors. They weren't college-trained engineers, and what they did was just tremendous, going over escarpments out in Lockport area with a five-lock series there, and going through swamps in the Montezuma area. Just a marvel that was done back in 1817.
Yeah, Clinton's Ditch. It was we say, boy, political politics today are just so rough. It wasn't like that years ago. Oh, yeah, it was.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, go back to the 1790s, Alexander Hamilton and Thomas
fistfights
and some of those guys.
Duels and all sorts of stuff. So.
It wasn't Aaron Burr. It was the one that shot Alexander Hamilton, right, in a duel?
I believe,
Burr shot him. Sure, Burr shot him.
So I have one interesting note here, and then I have a question which reveals my ignorance on this topic. First of all, I just looked up. I'm on one of the websites here. April 15, 1817, the New York State Legislature passes the act to construct the Erie and Champlain Canal. So that's 200 years this Saturday was that act was passed. Can you explain the lock system? Because I don't understand why you can't just ride your boat in, why a lock is required. I've never.
It's elevation. It's the elevation issue.
Well, the trouble is there's 300. I got it here someplace. There's 565 feet. Lake Erie is 565 feet higher than the Hudson at Albany. Mm-hmm. So you've got to go up in stages. In this area, we're at what they call the summit here. There's a long area between Rome and DeWitt, which had no locks whatsoever because it was flat. So the locks simply take boats from a lower level to a higher level, or vice versa. It goes the other way.
Okay.
So you got to have these gates, and the water has to be controlled and so forth. So it's certainly necessary to have locks to go through such a high elevation, 565 feet. You can't just jump a boat up over a escarpment or something.
Gotcha.
And it's basically the same system being used today.
No, not quite.
Okay,
Not quite.
we're living and learning.
If I got 2 minutes here, I'll tell you the story.
I'm curious.
We had actually the first Erie Canal was the one that was started in 1817 in Rome, in July 4th of 1817, and that was called Clinton's Ditch, as somebody just mentioned. There were 84 locks. It went to Lake Erie, and the first shovel was in Rome near the U.S. Arsenal in Rome. And Benjamin Wright was a Rome person who was considered the father of American engineering, and he was very involved in that. And also Canvas White, Whitesboro, Whitestown, a son of Hugh White, who settled Whitestown, developed a hydraulic cement, which was used for the locks and so forth. So he was a very important person. So the locks were 90 feet long by 15 feet wide and about 4 feet deep. Now, there was no dynamite at that time, so they had to use gunpowder to blow up these various rocky areas that were difficult.
Wow.
Now, can we go back to the 3 feet or 4 feet deep? Because we went on a canal ride out to North Syracuse, Cicero, where the aqueduct is. Are you familiar with that out that way?
Not that one, no.
It's the part of the original canal and shallow. Which is not the case in the canal today. It's much deeper
12 feet today.
Yeah.
The barge canal.
Yeah, right.
You see, they enlarged the original canal in the 1860s, and then finally in 1917 they went to the new barge canal and abandoned the old Erie Canal. So, which they called the barge canal. Now they call it the Erie Canal again, I believe. But
Right.
So we're back to the Erie. But the current canal is much different from the original Erie.
Got it.
The current canal uses a lot of the rivers and the lakes, where the old canal went basically where it was flatter and not so many locks, even though they did have, 84 locks anyhow.
Right.
So the current canal is not much different, but it does not follow the exact lines of the old Erie Canal, which would have been right through Rome and right through Risky Street in Utica.
But the lock system is the same. Am I walking into the mud here? Is basically the same philosophy, the same technology. Is that true? The way the lock system raises and
same
lowers
technology,
the,
except the technology of how they got the water in and out was much different. They used to just open some gates back in 1820. Now they have pumps that pump it in and out.
Right.
So the technology is much different.
That
but
had to have been difficult to manipulate the gates, the doors of those gates with all that water pressure.
There was a small door down at the bottom of each door, and they manually had to turn it. The lock tender, they had lock tenders, and they would turn the door, and they would let the water out if they were going downstream, and then shut the door if they're going upstream. So,
the other part that I want to bring up is, in where I grew up, which is Mohawk area and up on Vickerman Hill, so outside Mohawk, between Mohawk and Richfield Springs, there's an old cemetery that, and you just see the number of people that died during the making of the Erie Canal. That's something that we don't really think about. It wasn't like we were bulldozers creating this thing. This was man-made.
It was pick and shovel, manual labor, some animals, some draft animals. It was just they worked for $1.25 a day. For these laborers did.
Yeah.
Some were immigrants. They weren't all immigrants. The Irish were here, but they weren't just the Irish. So it was quite a feat for the worker. There was no OSHA back then to protect them from having their hand. Right. It was a much different situation, and there were injuries, I'm sure, and deaths in many industries back then because there were not the protections that we have today.
All right, so pretty interesting. Anything else you want to add?
I would just say, 200 years ago, $1.25 was probably a good wage for a day.
Not bad.
$1.25? That's a lot.
Okay, very interesting. This celebration happens coming up in May. It'll be the 19th through the 21st, so Friday through Sunday. A lot going on. You guys have these brochures that are available out there?
The brochures. Come one day, come 3 days. Bring your family for the boat ride on Sunday.
All right.
I appreciate being here. Thank you very much.
Very nice. Thank you. I was on that boat ride, and it is. They explain everything. They go through all the history, and well worth checking out.
So come on out and join